MSNBC's special coverage of this Republican National Convention continues right now. I'm Ari Melber. It's 1 a.m. out east, 10 p.m. out west. And the second night of the RNC is making waves not just for what the speaker said, but for some unprecedented breaches of the rules that actually bind presidential power. Donald Trump literally timing and issuing a presidential pardon for an ex-bank robber as some sort of partisan convention gimmick, a raw exploitation of his office. Also breaking tradition and using the White House as a political backdrop. Plus, a president known for harsh immigration crackdowns found tonight of all nights was the time to oversee a naturalization ceremony for new immigrants. And all that is before a stunning breach of diplomatic military protocol, which we'll actually get into later on in this show. Tonight's top speakers included Trump's former rival, Senator Paul, and former impeachment lawyer Pam Bondi, plus a parade of Trump family members who echoed the convention's dark warnings and fear campaign. That includes Eric Trump, who was remixing the religious culture war with a little dollop of cancel culture scare tactics.
To all houses of worship and to all people of faith stripped of our religious freedoms and religious liberties, my Father will fight for you.
And while polls and Trump children were going on offense, the First Lady took a different tack, explicitly addressing this pandemic decimating the nation.
My deepest sympathy goes out to everyone who has lost a loved one, and my prayers are with those who are ill or suffering. Donald will not rest until he has done all he can to take care of everyone impacted by this terrible pandemic.
We're joined now by Jason Johnson, professor of politics and journalism at Morgan State University and a contributor to MSNBC, and Liz Plank, host of NBC News' Positive Spin and the author of For the Love of Men. Good evening to both of you. Jason, I want to get right to the issues of abuse of power because both parties' conventions present different visions of the world, as one would expect. Perfectly fine. Last night had a lot of that vision. Tonight had, as mentioned, multiple instances of using government power for a partisan end. Your view?
Ari, tonight really sank this. It made this message clear, and we saw it with the State of the Union speech earlier this year, where the president was doling out pardons almost like he threw out paper towels at Americans in Puerto Rico who were suffering. We thought that this was a 2020 presidential campaign, and it's not. You have the Democratic Party that is running an election campaign, and you have the Republican Party that is putting on a circus while they work to dismantle the democratic process. I can't even break down the number of ways that people were lying this evening because every other word that came out of everybody's mouth was a lie. I can't break down all of the norms that were broken this evening because every single person involved was breaking every single halfway decent norm about American politics that we know. What we saw tonight is an organization that has dedicated itself to maintaining the president in power. And whether that means abusing a citizenship ceremony, which is sacred to so many different kinds of people, or handing out pardons, or blatantly lying about what this government has and has not done. That's what we saw tonight. This is no longer an election campaign. It is just a keep Donald Trump in power party, and that's what they're going to do for the next 2 nights.
Well, and Jason, I'm old enough to remember what counted as a controversy during the Obama administration. And I certainly don't remember President Obama taking the executive legal authority that any president does have, but for example, in the DACA program, and timing it and using it in the middle of a campaign rally with whatever voting bloc might be affected or at the convention. I mean, can you imagine what Republicans would have said then if he had done that?
I mean, Loretta Lynch could like an Instagram post from Hillary Clinton, and they were going to say it's a violation of federal norms and power. Everything they did tonight is taking up the Constitution, using it as tissue paper, and throwing it out. I mean, like, it's not just Pompeo violating the sort of military and foreign policy sort of neutrality his position is supposed to have. It's advocating for policies that haven't worked. He didn't talk about the fact that Jared Kushner's Israel peace process is dead in the water. He hasn't talked about the fact that we haven't pulled troops out. We haven't even gotten into the number of ways that they lied about what's actually happening at Lordstown. I used to teach 15 minutes away from that factory. I know what's actually on there. It was so full of lies and violations of norms that they cannot be running this convention as if they're changing minds or convincing people. They just have four nights of airtime they have to fill, and they figure we're all going to fall for it.
And Liz, I would get you on this topic, but there were so many shattered norms. I'm actually going to bring you into the next one, something that is not normal by any stretch, again, for either political party in America. There's a long tradition. We've all heard about politics stopping at the water's edge. Tonight, Trump's RNC and Secretary of State Pompeo defying that with what was clearly, you see it on your screen, an international partisan power grab using a State Department trip, a.k.a. your tax dollars, for a campaign rally speech by Pompeo recorded in Jerusalem during this official trip. Now, Pompeo's own legal advisor warned against this exact move in writing, saying senior officials like him may not even attend a party convention. It's already prompted a House investigation. Liz.
Right. And so to, all the points that were brilliantly made, there are so many ways that this violated every norm and every expectation that we have of normalcy during a time of extreme where everything is not normal, right? In addition to all of these violations of the way that the White House was used, the White House was also used to violate every CDC guideline possible. It felt like a 2-hour ad for a CDC violation. We saw the president appear at all times without a mask, at all times not socially distancing from any of the people around him, or actually sometimes he was the only one socially distancing and all of the people around him were not, which is actually a really brilliant metaphor for who this president really cares about. And so I agree. It felt like a circus. It felt like a distraction. There are 170,000 plus Americans who are dead. And we saw Republicans talk about cancel culture and what abortion smells like, which is an actual quote from what happened tonight. And you may not even remember it because 170,000 other things happened that boggled the mind. And so it is completely disheartening, and I think it goes beyond any expectation that we would have, and we're only on day 2.
We're on day 2, and Jason, the reason that the Secretary of State is not typically allowed to do this, why his own advisor warned against it, is the same reason the military is not. The president does have awesome authority in our system, checked authority, but authority. But the exceptions are, of course, the international operations, precisely because they are supposed to be clearly completely above politics, so that we never wonder whether the Secretary of State or the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs are making a deal overseas to do domestic politics, because the lives of the men and women who support them are just too important for that. So I'm curious what you think should be done about this, and then I want to bring in another moment from the convention.
The first thing that should be done about it is every single person who watched tonight and everybody who's watching this coverage, make sure you vote. Make sure you vote these people out. Let's be clear. It doesn't matter if Nancy Pelosi puts together an investigation. It doesn't matter if Chuck Schumer screams. It doesn't matter if they go to another IG and say, hey, what Mike Pompeo did is a violation of his oath. It endangers our troops.
Jason?
It endangers national security. It
Jason,
makes all
is that
of ours
IG?
work. Yes.
Is that IG Inspector General, or is that a reference to your earlier IG Instagram comment?
It was both. Heck, with these people could be Inspector Gadget. It wouldn't matter. They're not going to be able to get anything done. I mean, that's the problem here. I don't think people realize that the government has been completely absorbed by this administration. It doesn't matter what Congress does. The only thing we have left is to vote these people out. Because if you think tonight is bad, just wait for Mike Pence tomorrow. He's going to lie even more. He's going to do more ridiculous things. Donald Trump, look, if Donald Trump decided on Thursday that he was going to finally stand in the middle of a Manhattan street and shoot somebody and claim, well, he was a Black Lives Matter protester and I thought he was endangering the President of the United States, they'd get away with that too. Like, at this point, you just have to vote these people out because they have been breaking norms since they got into office, even if those norms endanger the lives of the men and women who have dedicated themselves to saving us domestically and abroad.
a very clear case you make. Also, shout out to Inspector Gadget. I haven't thought about him in a while.
Yeah.
Go Gadget Arms. It wore the trench coat. One of the best
There you go.
presentations of the trench coat in cartoon history. So we're thinking about you.
He'd make a
Liz,
better
you just
president,
closed.
also probably.
Quite possibly.
He'd probably make a better president.
And Penny and
at this
Brain.
point.
Yeah.
All of it. I want you both to watch a moment from Eric Trump where he goes after Joe Biden on immigration. That's policy. Then he falsely suggests Biden would defund the police entirely. That's actually something that Donald Trump was recently fact-checked about on Fox News by Chris Wallace. Take a look.
Biden has pledged to stop border wall construction and give amnesty and health care to all illegal immigrants. Biden has pledged to defund the police and take away your cherished Second Amendment. My father, on the other hand, delivered the largest tax cuts in American history, knows if you do not have a border, you do not have a country, and will always support law enforcement and your right to keep and bear arms.
Liz.
This is a night that was all about facade rather than actual policy or actual facts, right? So when it comes to immigration, when it comes to defund the police, as you've said, all those things are lies. And even when it comes to Melania Trump's entire speech, which, you know, the entire premise of the speech was that she somehow fulfilled the American dream and that her coming to America on a program which Donald Trump refers to as chain migration and is trying to eliminate, would mean that she wouldn't even been able to be here. One of the people, when we talk about the, people who became American citizens that we saw in the White House, one of them came from Sudan in 2012. So if Donald Trump had been in power at that time because of the Muslim ban, he wouldn't even have been able to be here. So it's a circus. It is, and I can go on and on about women, which were apparently are doing so great under the Trump administration, when in reality, women are far more affected by the mishandling of the COVID crisis. We are seeing Black women 30% more likely to be fired and to lose their jobs. There are so many ways that women are disparately affected. And so to say that female unemployment is the lowest it's ever been, and that this is all thanks to Donald Trump, his mishandling of the COVID crisis is going to create one of the largest gender gaps that we've ever seen. This is going to bring us back to the 1960s.
Appreciate you bringing that up. It's one of several areas where the messaging of the convention was a reminder that it's possible some of what we saw last week on the Democratic side is more popular because, as you called it, a facade. There were pieces of programming designed to make it seem like maybe the Republicans on immigration, on women's issues, even at times on justice issues, were somehow closer to the Democrats. I think that's an interesting political schism there. Our panel stays, and I want to do another important fact check tonight. In our coverage here, we try to give you the full spectrum here. So some convention arguments are opinions, and people have opinions and can debate them. But others present factual claims to the nation, which matters. And if they're false, we're going to make sure to report it. There was a major whopper tonight, and here's what you need to know first. The Obama administration handed off an economic growth rate that matched President Trump's rate when he came into office. You see here both just over 2%. And Obama handed off a job creation rate that was higher than Trump's pre-COVID, about 30,000 more jobs per month. Now, those are the numbers. That's just the facts. Obama, higher on jobs, similar on cumulative growth. Donald Trump oversaw that economy, then bungled a pandemic response into what is now, of course, a big recession. Now, Trump aide Larry Kudlow tonight tried to defend his boss, but he couldn't deal with those numbers, so he falsely claimed that Trump received a stagnant economy heading into a recession. What you're about to hear is not true.
Inheriting a stagnant economy on the front end of recession, the economy was rebuilt in 3 years. Do you want economic health, prosperity, opportunity, and optimism? Or do you want to turn back to the dark days of stagnation, recession, and pessimism?
Jason, we wanted to give that clear frame, and I want your view because as a reporter to me, there is a difference between saying you like tax cuts or you don't, and you like less government revenue or you want more government revenue to support programs, education or whatever you might want. And what you saw there, which was someone tasked with economic policy lying about the numbers he knows.
Well, yeah, Ari. I mean, one, the economy was booming. It had been booming for a while. Barack Obama was responsible for that. Trump may have expanded on it a little bit, even though the sort of gaps between the rich and the poor expanded. And then, but I think what it speaks to, not just the dishonesty that we've seen, because we saw that on Monday with the COVID response, it also shows that throughout night 2 of the Republican National Committee, they tried to act like the last 6 months didn't happen. I don't care if everybody in America had 2 chickens in every pot and a Ford Model T in their garage. Over the last 6 months during COVID, it's all been lost. Massive numbers, African Americans in key swing states like North Carolina have only gotten 3% of PPP loans. Large numbers of minorities in this country have been fired first and haven't been hired back. The economy is in shambles right now, and it wasn't that stable beforehand. And Kudlow sat there like somebody doing a QVC sale at 3 o'clock in the morning saying, no, buy this deal. Don't pay attention to what you already see and what you already have in your closet. So that's what a lot we saw tonight, just simply lying about what's going on. And I want to mention this in particular, Ari, about like that Lordstown plant. So I used to work like 15 minutes from that place. He didn't save the Lordstown plant. What happened is GM sold it to somebody else, which was a non-union shop, and they said they would start hiring more people and putting more people back to work if they got a brand new deal, and that deal is new trucks for the United States Postal Service, and we know Trump is gutting that.
A lot of great points. Jason, I guess I have to ask, what time is it where you are? Because it doesn't seem like it's 1:15 in the morning with the energy of Jason Johnson's hot fire.
I'm fired up, man. I got calls from a lot of my students in Ohio after that Lordstown thing.
Is it 1:15? Are you on East Coast time?
No matter what time you call, Ari, it's always on time for me. I'm good. I'm ready to go. It's always 6.
What year is it? What time is it? What is time? Anyways.
Liz, I think he's paraphrasing. I'm not always there when you call, but I'm always on time.
But I'm always on time.
Yes.
Was an artist with Ja Rule.
Very good.
Who was it?
Yes.
Who was it?
That was
Ashanti.
That was Ja Rule.
Aaliyah.
I think it was Ashanti
yes.
with Ja Rule. And look, fact checks. We do fact checks around here.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Liz Plank, thank you as
someone
well. A lot of energy in your camera as well. Thank you. Jason Johnson comes back a little later in the hour. I got to fit in a break. We're 17 plus minutes into our special coverage hour here, but